Hi guys, it's me, Joseph Anderson again, and welcome to my video on me reading the Communist Manifesto, but part 2. So, without further ado, here we go. The bourgeoisie cannot exist without constantly revolutionizing the instruments of production, and thereby the relations of production, and with them the whole relations of society. Conservation of the old modes of production in unaltered form was, on the contrary, the first condition of existence for all earlier industrial classes. Constant revolutionizing of production and uninterrupted disturbance of all social conditions, everlasting uncertainty and agitation distinguish the bourgeois epoch from all earlier ones. All fixed, past frozen relations with a train of ancient and venerable prejudices and opinions are swept away. All new formed ones become antiquated, for they cannot ossify. All that is solid melts into the air. All that is holy is profaned, and man is at last compelled to face with sober senses his real condition of life and his relations with his kind. The need of a constantly expanding market for its products pitted the bourgeoisie all over the surface of the globe. It must nestle everywhere, sell everywhere, establish connections everywhere. The bourgeoisie has, through its exploitation of the world market, given a cosmopolitan character to production and consumption in every country, to the great chagrin of reactionaries. It has drawn from under the feet of industry and the national ground on which it stood. And all old established national industries have been destroyed or are daily being destroyed. They are dislodged by new industries whose introduction becomes a life and death question for all civilized nations, and by industries that no longer work up indigenous raw material, but raw material drawn from the remotest zones. Industries whose products are consumed not only at home but in every quarter of the globe. In place of the old wants satisfied by the production of the country, we find new wants requiring for the satisfaction the products of distant local lands and climes, in place of the old local and national seclusion and self-sufficiency. We have intercourse in every direction, universal interdependence of nations, as in material, so also in intellectual production. The intellectual creation of individual nations become common property. National one-sidedness and narrow-mindedness become more and more impossible, and from the numerous national and local literatures that rise world literature. The bourgeoisie, by rapid improvement of all instruments of production, by immensely facilitated means of communication for all nations, even the most barbarian into civilization. The cheap prices of its commodities are the heavy artillery with which it batters down all Chinese walls, with which it forces the barbarians' intensely obstinate hatred of foreigners to capitulate. It compels all nations on pain of extinction to adopt the bourgeois mode of protection. It compels them to introduce what it calls civilization into their midst, i.e., to become bourgeois themselves. In a word, it creates a world after its own image. The bourgeoisie has restricted the country to the rule of the towns. It has created enormous cities, has greatly increased the urban population as compared with the rural, and thus rescued a considerable part of the population from the idiocy of rural life. Just as it had made the country dependent on the towns, so it has made the barbarian and semi-barbarian countries dependent on the civilized ones. Nations of peasants on nations of bourgeois, the East on the West. More and more, the bourgeoisie keeps doing away with the scattered state of the population, of means of protection, and of property. It has agglomerated population, centralized means of protection, and concentrated property in a few hands. The necessary consequence of all of this is political centralization. Independent or loosely connected provinces with separate interests, laws, governments, and system of taxation became lumped together into one nation, and with one government, one code of laws, one national class interest, one frontier, one customs tariff. The bourgeoisie, during its rule of scarce 100 years has created more massive and more colossal protective forces than all preceding generations together. Subjugation of nature's forces to man, machinery, and the application of technology to industry, agriculture, steam navigation, railways, electric telegraphs, clearing of whole continents for cultivation, canalization of rivers, whole populations contrast the ground where earlier centuries had been presentiment that such protective forces slumbered in the lap of social labor. We see then that the means of protection in the vaccine, which served as the foundation for the growth of bourgeoisie, would generate imperial society at a certain stage in the development of the means of protection in the exchange. The conditions under which feudal society produced and engaged. The feudal organization of agriculture and manufacturing industry, in a word, the feudal relations of property became no longer compatible with their already developed protective forces. The overdeveloped protective forces, they became so many feathers, they had to burst asunder. They were burnt, they were burst asunder. They had to be burst asunder, they were burst asunder. Into their place, the free competition accompanied by a social and political competition adapted to it, and by the economic and political state, the bourgeois class. A similar movement is going on before our eyes. Modern bourgeois society, with its relations on production of exchange and of property, a society that has crunched up such gigantic means of protection and of exchange. It's like the sorcerer who is no longer able to control the powers of the netherworld, whom he has called up by his spells. For many a decade past, the history of industry and commerce is but a history of revolt of modern protective forces against modern conditions of production, against the property relations that are the conditions for the existence of the bourgeoisie and of its rule. It is enough to mention the commercial crisis that by the periodical return put the existence of the entire bourgeois society on trial, each time more threateningly. In each crisis, a great part not only of existing products, but also of previously created sources are periodically destroyed. In each crisis, the breakout in an epidemic that is all in all. So the earlier epochs would have seemed an absurdity. The epidemic of overproduction. Society suddenly finds itself put back into a state of momentary barbarism. It seemed as if the famine, universal war of devastation, had cut off the supply of every means of subsistence. Industry and commerce seemed to have been destroyed. And why? Because there is too much civilization, too much means of sustenance, too much industry, too much commerce. The productive forces at the disposal of society no longer tend to further the development of the conditions of the bourgeois property. On the contrary, they have become too powerful for these conditions by which they are fettered. No sooner do they overcome fetters than they bring disorder into the whole of bourgeois society, endanger the existence of bourgeois property. The conditions of bourgeois society are too narrow to comprise the world created by them. And how does bourgeoisie get over these crises? On the one hand, by enforced destruction of mass protective forces, on the other, by the conquest of new markets, and by the more thorough exploitation of the old ones. That is to say, by paving the way for more extensive and more destructive ones, and by diminishing the means whereby crises are prevented. The weapons with which the bourgeoisie felled feudalism to the ground are now turned against the bourgeoisie itself. But not only has the bourgeoisie forged weapons that bring death into itself, it has also called into existence the men who are to wield those weapons, the modern working class, the proletariat. In proportion as bourgeoisie, a capital, is developed, it's the same proportion its proletariat, the modern working class, developed class of laborers who live only as long as they find work, only as long as their labor increases capital. These laborers who must sell themselves piecemeal are a commodity. like other article, like every other article of commerce, and are consequently exposed to all the vicissitudes of competition, all the fluctuations of the market, owing to the extensive use of machinery and the division of labor. The work of the proletariat has lost all individual character and consequently all charm for the workmen. Thinking of this today, I thank you for watching my second part of my video thing where I'm going to be reading the Communist Manifesto. It's an important historical document, and it's really interesting to read. A little bit long-winded, but what you gotta do. Anyway, if you like what is here, want to see more of my videos and such, you can always like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Or if you like, you can always contact me for future information on my future stuff on my channel, and things like call me or text me at 631-707-3707. And if you like, you can follow me on Twitter or X if you prefer at PeteNelsonPro. Also, you can get me on my my channel. You can get me at my email at jjsviewingchannel@gmail.com. So, anyway, like reading all these old documents, and please let me know if you guys understand my reading fine. So, peace out, my brothers. I'll see you in the next video. All you girls and guys in innocent land, that's spreading